She mistook a billionaire heir for the guy cleaning tables, but that mistake changed everything. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get into the story. End of part 1. After Emma rushed out of the restaurant, she couldn't help but feel like a complete fool. Her cheeks were flushed with embarrassment, her stomach in knots. She had walked out of the restaurant so fast, she barely had time to think. It had all happened so quickly. 1 minute, she was sitting across from a man she thought was her blind date, and the next, she was running out the door after realizing she'd sat at the wrong table. She could still hear the faint sound of Liam's voice, his words lingering in her mind, "It's okay." That was the last thing she remembered before she bolted, not even giving him a chance to explain. Now, as she walked down the empty streets of New York, the night air cool against her skin, she felt both mortified and strangely disappointed. She had tried so hard to hold it together, to pretend she belonged in that fancy restaurant, but it was clear she didn't. She wasn't like those people in the restaurant. She wasn't rich, she wasn't polished, and she certainly wasn't used to dining in places like that. But something about Liam had made her feel seen. She shook her head, trying to push the thought away. She needed to focus on getting home and not dwelling on this mistake. Still, as she walked further, she couldn't help but think of the way he looked at her. He wasn't judging her. He wasn't looking down on her. It felt different. She knew she shouldn't be thinking about him, but she couldn't help it. The next day, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something had been missing. She went about her usual routine, working at the diner, serving tables, dealing with rude customers, but her mind kept drifting back to the encounter with Liam. Who was he really? What was he doing at a place like that? Why hadn't he corrected her when she mistook him for someone else? That question lingered in the back of her mind as she continued with her day. She thought about how he didn't seem like the typical guy who would be interested in someone like her. He was quiet, a little reserved, but there was something about him that had made her feel comfortable, something she hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't until later that evening when Emma's phone buzzed. She picked it up without thinking, expecting a text from her friend Jenny. But instead, she froze when she saw the message. It was from an unknown number. "Hi, Emma. This is Liam. I hope you're doing well. I wanted to apologize for the confusion last night. I didn't mean to make things awkward." Emma's heart skipped a beat as she read the message. She hadn't expected to hear from him, let alone receive an apology. She quickly typed back, unsure of what to say. "Hi, Liam. No need to apologize. I really wasn't expecting that. But thank you for understanding." She hit send, then stared at the screen for a moment, wondering if she'd said the right thing. Just as she was about to put her phone down, it buzzed again. Another message from him. "I know this might be strange, but would you be open to meeting again? I promise, this time I'll be the one at the right table." Emma couldn't believe it. He wanted to meet her again? After everything that happened? She hesitated for a moment, then typed back, "Sure, I'd like that." She hit send, her fingers trembling slightly. She had no idea where this would go, but there was something about him that made her want to give it another shot. The next evening, Emma found herself walking into a different cafe, one that wasn't nearly as fancy as the restaurant, but it was quiet and cozy. She spotted Liam sitting at a table by the window, looking casual in a button-up shirt and jeans, not the expensive suit she had expected. When their eyes met, he smiled, and Emma couldn't help but smile back. "Hey," he said, standing up as she approached. "I'm glad you could make it." "Of course," she replied, feeling her nerves settle. A bit as she took a seat across from him. "Thanks for reaching out. I didn't expect this, but I'm glad you did." Liam's smile grew a little wider. I wasn't sure if you'd even want to see me after last night, he admitted. I mean, I really messed that up. It's okay, Emma said, her voice soft. It was just a misunderstanding. I'm here now, and that's what matters. As they sat there, chatting casually over coffee, Emma couldn't help but notice how easy it was to talk to him. The awkwardness from their first encounter had melted away, replaced by a genuine connection. She found herself laughing at his jokes, sharing stories about her life, and even talking about her dream of one day opening her own art studio. Liam listened, truly listened, and for the first time in a long while, Emma felt like someone cared about her dreams. As the conversation continued, she realized something: this wasn't just a casual meeting. There was something more here, something that made her heart race in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. And as the evening wore on, she found herself looking forward to seeing him again. She had no idea what this would turn into, but for the first time, she was willing to find out. And maybe, just maybe, this mistake she made at the restaurant wasn't such a bad thing after all. The days that followed felt different for Emma. Every time she glanced at her phone, her mind would race as she thought about Liam. Their meeting at the cafe had been nothing short of amazing, easy, comfortable, and unexpectedly fun. She couldn't believe how quickly they had fallen into a rhythm, sharing stories and laughter like they had known each other for years. She hadn't felt this way in a long time, not since, well, not in a long time, period. It had been a while since she had opened up to anyone, especially a man like Liam. The more they talked, the more she realized how much they had in common, how much she actually liked him. What was supposed to be just a blind date that went wrong had turned into something more meaningful than she ever expected. But still, she couldn't shake the question lingering in the back of her mind: who was Liam Parker really? The man who had sat across from her at the cafe had been warm, kind, and completely different from what she imagined someone like him would be. He didn't seem like the typical wealthy heir or businessman. She'd heard of Liam Parker before. His name was everywhere, associated with tech startups, luxury cars, and high-end events. But the man she had met was down to earth, humble even. He wasn't flaunting his wealth. Instead, he seemed to be genuinely interested in her, and that was something she couldn't ignore. A few days after their cafe meeting, Emma found herself nervously waiting at the entrance of a local gallery. It was a small event, nothing like the extravagant galas she imagined he usually attended, but still, she was nervous. She hadn't seen Liam since their last coffee date, and now he was inviting her to this art gallery opening he was hosting. She was both excited and anxious. What if she didn't fit in? What if she didn't know how to act around him in a more formal setting? She could already imagine herself feeling out of place, as she often did in situations like these. But she pushed the thoughts aside, took a deep breath, and stepped inside. The moment she entered, Emma was greeted by a sleek, modern space, filled with art pieces that looked like they belonged in a high-end museum. It was a far cry from the small gallery she was used to visiting, but she had to admit, it was beautiful. As she walked deeper into the space, she spotted Liam standing near a large painting, talking to a group of people. He looked as composed as ever, but when his eyes met hers, his face softened, and he gave her a welcoming smile. Emma's heart fluttered in her chest. It was strange how someone so high up in the world, someone with so much power and influence, could make her feel so at ease. She walked toward him, feeling a little out of place among the sophisticated crowd, but Liam made it seem effortless. He stepped away from the group and walked over to her, taking her hand in his. "I'm so glad you made it," he said, his voice warm. "You look amazing." Emma smiled, her cheeks turning pink. "Thank you. This place is incredible," she said, her eyes scanning the gallery. "I never thought I'd be here." Liam chuckled. "Well, I'm glad you are. It's good to have you here." They spent the next few hours talking, getting lost in conversations about art, life, and everything in between. Liam showed her some of his favorite pieces, explaining the meaning behind them with the kind of passion Emma hadn't seen in a long time. She was captivated, not just by the art but by how genuine Liam was. He wasn't the arrogant tech mogul she imagined. He was thoughtful, insightful, and, despite his wealth, completely down to earth. As the evening went on, Emma began to relax. She wasn't just some waitress from the diner anymore. She was Emma, and Liam seemed to genuinely enjoy her company. It was the first time in a long while that she felt truly seen, not for her job or her circumstances, but for who she was as a person. But as the night drew to a close, and the crowd began to thin out, Emma couldn't help but feel a little nervous. She wasn't sure what Liam wanted from all of this. They had a great time, yes, but was it just about the company, or was there something more? As if reading her mind, Liam leaned in slightly, his voice low. "I know this might sound crazy, but I want to be honest with you," he said, his gaze steady. "I'm not just some random tech billionaire. I'm not here to impress you or make you think I'm something I'm not. I like you, Emma. I like the person you are, not the things you do or where you come from." Emma's breath caught in her throat. She had been expecting him to say something like that, but hearing it out loud felt different, real. "Liam, she started, but he gently placed a finger on her lips, stopping her. "You don't have to say anything," he said softly. "I just want you to know that I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." Emma's heart raced, and for the first time in a long time, she felt a warmth spread through her chest. Maybe this wasn't just a mistake after all. Maybe this was the beginning of something real. The following weeks were a whirlwind for Emma. What had started as an awkward misunderstanding over a blind date had quickly turned into something much deeper, something she hadn't expected. Liam and Emma found themselves meeting more frequently, not just at fancy events or galleries, but in quiet, everyday settings, cafes, parks, even the small diner where Emma worked. Each time they met, Emma felt more and more at ease, as though the walls she had built around herself were slowly coming down, piece by piece. Liam was nothing like the wealthy, distant man she had imagined. He wasn't the type to flaunt his money or his status. In fact, he seemed to prefer the simpler moments, those times when it was just the two of them, away from the prying eyes of the world. It was in those moments that Emma saw a side of Liam that few others did, his vulnerability, his warmth, his honesty. He didn't seem to care about the wealth or the fame that came with his name, he just cared about being real with her. And Emma couldn't help but feel drawn to him, not because of his wealth, but because of who he was when no one was watching. Still, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. As much as she had grown to like Liam, she still felt like there was a part of him that was holding back, a side of him that he wasn't ready to show her. She had learned so much about him, his love for technology, his passion for art, his dreams of changing the world, but there was still something elusive about him, something he hadn't shared. One evening, after a quiet dinner at a small Italian restaurant, Emma found herself staring at Liam as they sat together, talking about everything and nothing at all. She had noticed how the conversation always seemed to flow easily between them, but there was always a certain distance when it came to certain topics. Emma decided that tonight, she would ask him the one question that had been weighing on her mind. "Liam," she said softly, breaking the comfortable silence between them. "I feel like I know so much about you, but there's something you're not telling me. Something you're holding back. Why is that?" Liam's gaze faltered for a moment, and for the first time since they had met, Emma saw a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. He didn't answer right away, and Emma could feel the tension building between them. "It's not that I'm hiding anything," he finally said, his voice low, almost hesitant. "It's just that I don't know how to explain it. My life has always been in the spotlight, and it's hard to find someone who sees me for who I am, not just for what I have." He paused, running a hand through his hair, his expression troubled. "I guess I'm just afraid of getting hurt. I've been hurt before, and I've hurt people too. And I don't want to repeat that." Emma's heart went out to him. She could see the weight of his words, the burden he carried with every decision he made. It wasn't just about the money or the power, it was about the loneliness that came with it. "I get it," she said quietly. "I really do. But I'm not here for your money, Liam. I'm here for you. The real you. The person who likes art, who enjoys good coffee, who laughs at silly jokes. I see you." Liam's eyes softened as he looked at her, his expression unreadable. For a moment, there was only silence between them, and Emma wondered if she had said too much, if she had pushed him away with her words. But then, Liam reached across the table, taking her hand in his touch warm and reassuring. "Thank you," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you for seeing me." Emma smiled, a weight lifting off her shoulders as she felt his grip tighten just slightly. It was as if, in that moment, all the doubts and fears had been washed away, replaced by a sense of trust, of connection. Liam wasn't perfect, and neither was she, but together, they felt like they could make something real, something worth holding on to. Over the next few weeks, their relationship continued to blossom, each day bringing them closer to each other. Emma felt more and more at ease with him, and she knew that Liam was beginning to trust her in ways he hadn't trusted anyone else before. They shared more than just moments, they shared their hopes, their dreams, their fears. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt like she had found someone who truly understood her, someone who was willing to take the time to get to know the real her. As their connection deepened, Emma couldn't help but wonder if this was it, the beginning of something more than just a fleeting connection. Was this the person she had been waiting for all along? And, more importantly, was he the person who could fill the empty space in her heart? One afternoon, as they walked through the park, their hands casually brushing against each other, Emma stopped and turned to Liam. "Liam, do you ever think about the future?" she asked, her voice soft but steady. He looked at her, his brow furrowing slightly. "Of course," he replied, his eyes searching hers. "I think about it every day." Emma took a deep breath, gathering her courage. "What does that future look like for you?" "For us?" Liam's smile softened, and for a moment, Emma felt as though she could hear his thoughts without him saying a word. He squeezed her hand gently, his voice filled with sincerity. "It looks like this," he said, his eyes never leaving hers. "It looks like us, together." Emma's heart swelled in her chest, and she couldn't help but smile. For the first time, everything felt right. Maybe the mistakes of the past had led them here, to this moment. Maybe it wasn't about where they started, it was about where they were going. And with Liam by her side, Emma was ready to find out. Emma's world began to shift in small, unexpected ways after that conversation in the park. It was not dramatic or overwhelming, but gentle, like a door slowly opening, letting in light she never realized she needed. Liam became a constant in her life, someone who showed up not with grand gestures but with steady presence. He would pass by the diner on his way to meetings, sometimes just to wave at her through the window, sometimes to sit at the counter and drink a simple black coffee while she worked. She teased him about ordering the same thing every time, and he teased her about her obsession with vanilla creamer. It felt normal, comfortable, almost like they were falling into a routine without even meaning to. One Saturday morning, Liam surprised her by asking if he could see some of her artwork. Emma's stomach tightened. She had always been protective of her art, afraid of showing it to anyone, much less someone like Liam. But something in the way he asked made her want to share that part of herself. So she invited him to her small apartment, where her sketchbooks were stacked in uneven piles near the window. When Liam stepped inside, he did not look at the peeling paint or the squeaky floorboards. His eyes went straight to the drawings, the ones Emma had spent years keeping to herself. She watched nervously as he flipped through the pages, his expression softening with each turn. "Emma," he said quietly, almost reverently, "these are incredible." She felt her breath catch in her throat. No one had ever said that to her before, at least not in a way that felt real. She had heard polite compliments, the kind people give to be nice, but Liam's voice carried a sincerity that made her chest tighten. "You really think so?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "I do," he said, meeting her eyes. "You have something special. You see the world in a way most people do not." His words lingered with her long after he left that evening. It was strange how someone she had not known just weeks ago could make her feel more seen than anyone else in her life. Over the next few days, Emma found herself sketching more, inspired by the confidence Liam had in her. But just as everything seemed to be falling into place, a subtle shift began to happen, something Emma did not quite understand at first. Liam became quieter, distracted even. He still showed up, still smiled, still talked to her, but there was a heaviness in his eyes she could not ignore. One evening, as they sat together at her apartment, Emma finally asked, "Liam, is something wrong?" He hesitated before speaking, and that hesitation alone made Emma's heart tighten. "There is something I need to tell you," he said, his voice low. "Something I should have told you from the beginning." Emma felt a wave of unease wash over her, but she nodded for him to continue. He took a deep breath, his fingers lacing with hers. "Emma, I did not meet you in that restaurant by accident. I mean, the misunderstanding was real, but I recognized you before you even sat down." Emma blinked, confused. "You recognized me?" Liam nodded slowly. "I had seen you before. At the diner. A few times, when I stopped by. I always noticed you, but I never found the courage to say anything. So when you sat at my table that night, I did not correct you because it felt like fate was giving me a chance I did not know how to ask for." Emma's heart pounded in her chest. She did not know whether to feel flattered or overwhelmed. "Why did you not tell me?" she whispered. Liam exhaled, his voice tinged with guilt. "Because I did not want you to think I was using my status or my name to get close to you. I wanted you to see me as just me." Emma looked at him, her emotion swirling like a storm. She understood what he meant, but the revelation still shook her. She had trusted him, believed in him, and now she was unsure of what to feel. Liam gently squeezed her hands. "I care about you, Emma. More than I expected. But I will understand if this changes things for you." Emma looked down, her thoughts tangled. She felt hurt, but she also felt the truth in his words. This man, who could have had anyone, had chosen her long before she even knew his name. As she lifted her gaze to meet his, she knew this was a turning point. The question was not whether Liam had hidden something, it was whether Emma believed the reasons behind it. And deep down, she knew the answer was not simple. Not yet. Emma sat in silence for a long moment, processing what Liam had just revealed. Her thoughts were a whirlwind. He had known her before that night at the restaurant, he had seen her, watched her from afar. The feeling of being chosen, of someone noticing her in the midst of all the noise, was both flattering and unsettling. She had always been the kind of person who flew under the radar, blending into the background, but here was Liam, someone she never would have imagined noticing her in the first place, telling her that he had been watching her from the very beginning. His words hung in the air, heavy with honesty, and Emma felt a surge of conflicting emotions. She wanted to feel angry, to feel betrayed, but instead, she found herself understanding him in a way she hadn't expected. He had done what he thought was best, keeping his distance so she wouldn't think he was using his wealth to get close to her. But still, part of her felt exposed, like a secret she never asked to be revealed. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing heart. "Liam," she said softly, her voice shaky, "you could have told me. I would have understood." Liam's eyes softened, and he gently reached for her hand. "I know, Emma. I should have told you. I was just scared. Scared that you might see me as just the rich guy who wanted something from you. I didn't want that. I wanted to get to know you, not for who I am, but for who you are." His words were sincere, but they did little to ease the knot in Emma's stomach. She looked down at their hands, the warmth of his touch still grounding her, even as her mind raced with questions. "But what about me?" she asked quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "What do you really see in me?" Liam paused, his thumb gently tracing the back of her hand. "I see someone who's real. Someone who doesn't pretend to be something she's not. You're not like anyone I've ever met, Emma. And that's why I care about you." His words, simple yet powerful, cut through the confusion in her mind. She had always prided herself on being authentic, on staying true to who she was despite the challenges she faced. But hearing those words from Liam, especially after everything that had happened, made her wonder if she was truly ready to accept what he was offering. She was no longer the girl who worked in a diner, she was no longer the girl who lived in a tiny apartment and dreamed of a better life. She was someone who had the attention of a man who could have anything, someone who had everything, yet he chose her. She met his gaze, feeling a flicker of something deep inside her, something she had been pushing aside for too long. "I don't know if I'm ready, Liam," she admitted, her voice trembling with vulnerability. "I don't know if I can handle everything that comes with being with you." Liam nodded, his expression understanding. "I get it," he said softly. "It's a lot to take in. But Emma, I'm not asking you to change who you are or to fit into a world that doesn't feel right for you. I just want to be with you. For the person you are." Emma looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time, she realized that she wasn't the only one carrying a weight. Liam's eyes held a depth of emotion, of things he had never shared with anyone, things he had hidden behind his wealth and status. He wasn't just some aloof billionaire, he was someone who had been hurt before, someone who had been afraid to let anyone in. And somehow, through all the confusion and the misunderstandings, they had found each other. "What if I don't belong in your world?" Emma asked, her voice barely audible. "What if I can't fit in?" Liam reached out, cupping her face gently in his hands, his touch tender. "Emma, your world is exactly where I want to be. You don't have to fit in anywhere except beside me. That's all that matters." Her heart skipped a beat at his words, and for the first time, the walls she had built around herself began to crumble. She had spent so long convincing herself that she wasn't good enough, that she wasn't worthy of a life like this. But Liam didn't see her that way. He saw her for who she truly was, and in that moment, Emma knew she couldn't run from this anymore. She couldn't run from him, from the connection that was growing stronger with each passing day. "I'm scared," she confessed, the words slipping out before she could stop them. "But I think I want this. I want us." Liam's eyes softened, his smile gentle. "You don't have to be scared, Emma. We'll take this one step at a time, together. No rush. Just us, figuring this out." As he leaned in and kissed her softly, Emma felt the weight of the past lift from her shoulders. For the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to believe in something real, something worth fighting for. The road ahead wasn't going to be easy. There would be challenges, there would be moments of doubt. But for now, with Liam's arms around her and the world outside fading away, Emma knew she had made the right choice. She was ready to embrace the future with him, and for the first time, she believed it was a future they could share. The journey ahead was theirs, and she wasn't walking it alone. In the weeks that followed, Emma found herself settling into a rhythm with Liam that felt both exciting and comforting. It was as if they were slowly building something, piece by piece, and each moment they spent together added another layer to their connection. They still had their doubts, their fears, but there was a quiet understanding between them that they could face whatever came next, together. They spent weekends exploring the city, sometimes visiting museums or attending quiet art shows, other times simply walking through the park, enjoying the simplicity of being in each other's company. But as the days went on, Emma couldn't help but feel the pressure of their very different worlds. Liam's life was a whirlwind of business meetings, charity galas, and high-profile events. His name was recognized wherever they went, and there were always people vying for his attention. She, on the other hand, was a waitress at a small diner, someone who had always kept a low profile, just trying to make ends meet. She couldn't help but feel like she didn't belong in his world. There were times when she would sit next to him at one of his events, surrounded by polished, wealthy people, and feel completely out of place. Liam always made her feel welcome, his presence a steady anchor in the sea of unfamiliar faces, but deep down, she felt like an outsider. One evening, after an extravagant charity event Liam had invited her to, Emma found herself questioning everything. She had spent the entire night trying to smile and make small talk, but all she could think about was how much she didn't belong. As they left the venue, Liam held her hand, sensing the shift in her mood. "You okay?" he asked softly, looking at her with concern. Emma forced a smile. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just tired, I guess." Liam didn't buy it. "Emma," he said gently, stopping in the middle of the sidewalk, you've been quiet all night. What's really going on? Emma sighed, her shoulders slumping as she glanced down at their hands. I don't belong in this world, Liam. I don't fit in with your people. They're all so polished, so put together. And I'm just me. I feel like I'm always pretending. Liam's expression softened as he stepped closer, lifting her chin so she would meet his gaze. Emma, you're not pretending. You're exactly who you need to be. You don't have to fit into anyone's world but your own. I invited you to these events because I want you there, because I want to share this part of my life with you. But I also know that your world, your life, is just as important. She looked up at him, feeling a mixture of relief and doubt. But what about the difference between us? What if we want different things? Liam gave a small, reassuring smile. We're not so different, Emma. Sure, our worlds are different, but we're both searching for the same thing: honesty, love, and connection. And that's something we can build together, no matter where we come from. His words were simple, but they carried a weight that Emma couldn't ignore. She had spent so long doubting herself, doubting her worth, but Liam had a way of making her feel seen, of making her feel like she mattered, just as she was. As they stood there, in the quiet of the night, Emma realized something important: she didn't need to change who she was to be with Liam. He had already accepted her, flaws and all. And for the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she was worthy of that love. The next day, Liam invited Emma to a quiet dinner at his place. It wasn't anything extravagant, just the two of them, a simple meal, and a bottle of wine. They ate, laughed, and talked, and for the first time, Emma felt completely at ease in his presence, without the pressure of the world around them. As they finished dinner, Liam leaned back in his chair, his eyes on her. You know, he said with a smile, I'm really glad you're in my life, Emma. I don't know what I'd do without you. Emma felt her heart skip a beat, and she smiled, her cheeks flushed. I'm glad I'm in your life too, Liam. For the first time, she wasn't just saying the words. She meant them. The feeling of being truly seen, of being truly loved, was something Emma had never experienced before, not in the way she felt with Liam. It wasn't perfect, and it wasn't always easy, but it was real. And for Emma, that was enough. They were both learning, both growing, and that was more than enough to build a future on. The next few months passed in a blur of moments that felt both ordinary and extraordinary. They faced challenges, of course, moments of doubt, moments when their different worlds collided, but through it all, their connection only grew stronger. Emma no longer felt like an outsider in Liam's world, and Liam found himself drawn to the simplicity and authenticity that Emma brought into his life. One quiet evening, as they sat on the balcony of Liam's apartment, watching the city lights flicker below, Emma looked at him and smiled. You know, she said softly, I think I'm finally starting to believe in us. Liam turned to her, his gaze filled with warmth. I've always believed in us, he said, taking her hand. And I always will. In that moment, Emma knew that no matter where life took them, they would face it together. And for the first time, she was ready to embrace whatever came next, with Liam by her side. It had been several months since Emma and Liam had come to terms with their differences, and their relationship had grown in ways Emma had never thought possible. They had faced challenges, both personal and professional, but with every obstacle, they had come out stronger. Liam's world had slowly become more familiar to her, and Emma had found herself adapting in ways she hadn't expected. She wasn't just the girl from the diner anymore, she was someone who belonged in Liam's life, someone who had a place beside him, no matter where he went. But as much as they had overcome, there were still things that neither of them had fully addressed. For Liam, it was the pressure of being in the public eye, the weight of living up to expectations that weren't his own. For Emma, it was the lingering doubt that she wasn't enough, that her past could somehow catch up to her and ruin everything they had worked so hard to build. One evening, as they sat together on the couch in Liam's apartment, the city lights twinkling outside the window, Emma felt the need to talk. There had been a silence between them that she couldn't ignore. It wasn't uncomfortable, but it was a silence that spoke volumes. Liam, she started, her voice tentative, do you ever feel like you're just playing a role? Like, you're not really being yourself? Liam turned his gaze to her, his expression unreadable for a moment. He was quiet, but only for a second, before he spoke. I used to, he said softly. All the time. I get caught up in what people expected of me, what they thought I should be. But with you, he paused, his eyes softening. With you, I can just be me. I don't have to pretend. Emma looked at him, the weight of his words sinking in. She had always known that Liam carried the burden of his family's legacy, but hearing him admit it so openly made her heart ache. I can't imagine what that must be like, she said quietly. To always feel like you're not enough, no matter what you do. Liam reached for her hand, his touch warm and reassuring. I don't feel that way with you, Emma, he said, his voice low and sincere. With you, I don't have to prove anything. You accept me for who I am, not for the titles or the money or any of that. Emma felt a surge of emotion, her chest tightening at his words. It was strange how she had never felt truly accepted by anyone before, but with Liam, it felt like he saw her completely, without judgment or expectation. Emma hesitated, unsure of how to put her thoughts into words. I'm afraid that one day, I'm going to mess up. That I'm going to disappoint you, and then everything we've built will fall apart. Liam's expression softened even more as he gently cupped her face in his hands. Emma, he said softly, you don't have to be perfect. I don't need you to be perfect. I just need you to be you. And that's enough for me. Emma's breath caught in her throat, and for the first time in a long time, she felt a sense of peace wash over her. She had spent so much of her life trying to be someone she wasn't, trying to prove that she was worthy of love and acceptance. But here, with Liam, she didn't have to try so hard. She could just be herself, and that was enough. They leaned into each other, the quiet of the apartment surrounding them, and for a moment, it felt like the world outside didn't exist. The only thing that mattered was the connection they had built, the trust they had found in one another. As Liam gently kissed her forehead, Emma closed her eyes, feeling the weight of her worries lift. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, she felt ready to face it. They had come so far, and she knew they still had a long way to go. But together, they could face anything. I'm ready for whatever comes next, Emma whispered, her voice steady with conviction. Liam smiled softly, his eyes filled with affection. Me too, he replied, kissing her gently on the lips. We'll face it all together. And in that moment, Emma knew with all her heart that no matter what the future held, they would be okay. Their journey was just beginning, and with each step they took, they were writing a story that was truly their own. The following year brought with it a sense of calm and stability that Emma had never experienced before. The chaos that had once surrounded her, both in her personal life and in her relationship with Liam, seemed to fade away as they continued to build their lives together. Their connection had deepened, and despite the challenges, Emma no longer felt like an outsider in Liam's world. She had become a part of it, not because of his wealth or status, but because of the love they had cultivated, the trust they had worked so hard to build. Liam, too, had changed in subtle ways. The pressure of his family's expectations no longer weighed on him as heavily. With Emma by his side, he had learned to embrace the parts of himself that he had hidden for so long, and for the first time, he felt free to be the person he truly was, without the masks he had once worn. They had both learned so much about each other, and in doing so, had learned even more about themselves. It wasn't always perfect, and there were moments when old insecurities resurfaced, but they faced those moments together. One spring afternoon, as Emma and Liam sat on the balcony of their shared apartment, enjoying the warmth of the sun, Liam turned to her with a thoughtful expression on his face. I've been thinking, he began, his voice softer than usual. Emma raised an eyebrow, her curiosity piqued. About what? She asked, setting down her cup of coffee and looking at him intently. About us, Liam said, taking her hand in his. And about the future. Emma felt a flutter in her chest. What about the future? I know we've been through a lot together, and I know we've come a long way, Liam continued, his thumb gently brushing over her knuckles. But I also know that we've got more to go through. Life won't always be easy, and there will be challenges ahead. But I believe we can face it all, together. Emma smiled, feeling her heart swell with affection. She had known, deep down, that Liam was the person she wanted to spend her life with. But hearing him speak so openly about their future made everything feel even more real. I think we can face anything too, she replied, squeezing his hand gently. We've already faced so much, and look at where we are now. Liam nodded, his eyes never leaving hers. Exactly. And I want to keep building this life with you, Emma. I want to keep growing with you. I want us to build something that's ours, something that's real, no matter what happens. Emma felt a tear slip down her cheek, surprised by the overwhelming emotions that flooded her in that moment. She had never imagined a life like this, filled with love, with understanding, with someone who saw her for who she truly was and accepted her completely. I want that too, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Liam leaned in and kissed her softly, his lips warm against hers, as if sealing their promise. The world outside seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them in that quiet moment. And as they pulled away, Liam looked at Emma with a tenderness in his eyes that made her heart ache. There's no one else I want to spend my life with, Emma, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. No one else but you. Emma smiled through her tears, her heart full. I feel the same way, she replied, her voice steady now. I love you. I love you too, Liam said, his smile widening. And I always will. In that moment, Emma knew that no matter what challenges life would bring, no matter what doubts or fears they might face, they would face it together. They had built something strong, something real, and nothing could take that away from them. Their journey wasn't over, but as they held each other in the warmth of the afternoon sun, Emma felt more certain than ever that they were exactly where they were meant to be. Together, they had created a love that was unshakable, a love that had stood the test of time, and Emma knew that it would carry them through whatever came next. With Liam by her side, there was nothing they couldn't overcome. And for the first time, Emma was not just hopeful for the future, she was certain of it. This was just the beginning of the rest of their lives, and she was ready to face it all with him.